really have no opinion on the guy. Some of his clips are actually quite funny. I don't think that you should be going up to people and calling them the hard R. There's no reason to do that. However, you can't go and try to kill someone or beat the fuck out of them physically just because somebody says a word. And right now, the common narrative on YouTube is that this guy's going to jail and this guy is guilty and that he did it, and he's going to get ass in prison. That's pretty much what everybody's saying. But I have seen no proof of any of this. I've seen a lot of people saying that that's happened, but I've seen no proof. We actually got one of our first legitimate pieces of evidence on what's going on right now. And I'll be real, I don't give a fuck what happens, but I just want to make sure the American justice system does not fail its people. Currently, I believe that it is, as it so often does, due to the fact that we recently saw a black man kill a white boy unprovoked, and he got charged $250,000 for bail. And we saw Chud shoot a man in self-defense, provoked or unprovoked, we will see, and be charged $1.25 million for bail. And that to me makes no sense. So we got our first update here we're going to talk about. I'm going to read the entire thing as it's important. What a great day for Dalton Eartherly. This is the name of Chud the Builder. TLDR, the state's case against Eatherly appears to be utterly lacking in any legal merit whatsoever, based upon what appears to be the official affidavit of complaint just made public attached. And by the way, regardless of whether you like or dislike Chud the Builder, you should want the American justice system to serve its people. And you should want everybody to be punished equally and fairly. And you should want proof or evidence to get people convicted of crimes. You need it. Because if you do not stand against injustice, injustice will fall upon you. The court's justice system has the responsibility to operate fairly to all people. Proof and evidence above thoughts or feelings. This is in which the state's burden is proof of guilt and disproof of self-belief or self-defense beyond any reasonable doubt. All of it, so it appears the affidavit of complaint against Dalton Chud the Builder Eartherly has been made public, and the contents will absolutely shock many of you. A lot of people are running with narratives off of things they have not seen yet. So here we go. First shocker. There is not a single word about Dalton having uttered any racial slur towards Joshua Fox whatsoever, so as to have provoked the fight and thus to have lost the legal justification of self-defense. Not one word. It's very interesting because the internet has been saying he went up to a random black guy and he's called him the N-word, called him the N-word, called him the N-word, called him the N-word. And then he got hit. And then he got slammed. And then he got thrown in the cement and his face beaten the fuck in. But what's crazy is in this encounter, there has been no confirmation of that. As well as there was a confirmation that the perpetrator who followed him to the courthouse had an agenda and said, this will help me blow up on social media if I beat the fuck out of this guy. These are all things that have been proved so far, to my knowledge. And that's a very different story than what's being told on social media. That was Dalton's biggest potential vulnerability on self-defense, and we can now be confident that we can put the concern to rest. So this guy did not call this man the N-word. This guy did not provoke him into an attack. This is very interesting. But it gets even better for Dalton. Second shocker. Even if self-defense is not even considered, the affidavit of complaint fails to present any evidence-based narrative that Dalton has committed any crime whatsoever. But of course, self-defense will be raised, only further buttressing Dalton's legal position. Specifically, there is not a single word in this affidavit of complaint that describes any criminal conduct whatsoever. This honestly is getting very interesting because social media has been saying the exact opposite. I've embedded the affidavit in my possession, but for purposes of succinctness, the relevant portion reads, Dalton Eatherly and Joshua Fox engaged in a verbal altercation in front of the Montgomery County Courthouse. This is not a crime unless it's merely the misdemeanor of disorderly conduct, which would apply equally to both Eatherly and Fox, Chud the Builder and the perpetrator. And in any case, Eatherly has not been charged with disorderly conduct, nor Fox, of course. During this verbal altercation, Mr. Eartherly turned his body in a bladed stance towards Mr. Fox. There's nothing unlawful towards taking a defensive stance when dealing with an angry antagonist. Certainly, Eatherly is not charged with the crime of taking a bladed stance, of course. and reached for his firearm located in his right jacket pocket. Again, there is nothing unlawful about reaching for a firearm in one's pocket in preparation for a possibility necessary self-defense. Note that Eatherly is not charged with the crime of reaching for a firearm and located in his right jacket pocket. Thereafter, a physical altercation ensued. Note the passive voice. The altercation ensued. There's no claim that Eatherly initiated the altercation. Indeed, if anything, to the extent of the affidavit has detailed Eatherly's conduct, the absence of any representation of his conduct to indicate that it was Eatherly who initiated the altercation, we can only infer that it was Fox who initiated the altercation. That's very interesting, and that's very different against what's the common narrative on social media. This would, of course, make Eatherly the victim of Fox's unlawful attack upon him. The next paragraph, Mr. Eatherly discharged his firearm, striking Mr. Fox multiple times. There's nothing inherently unlawful about discharging a firearm and shooting someone multiple times. Thousands of shootings that fit this description occur every year and qualify as perfect lawful self-defense. Of course, now self-defense need actually be put on the table. Then there's the discussion of Fox being flown to a hospital, followed by, in addition, at the time shots were fired, there were several innocent bystanders in the area. Surveillance video showed the incident shows a ricocheting projectile hitting nearby walls. Again, there's nothing inherently unlawful about firing shots that miss the intended target. Police involved in lawful shootings of suspects routinely miss about 70% shots that they fire. Those shots also go flying about neighborhood until they hit something. None of that is a crime, absent evidence of recklessness. And the affidavit provides no statement of recklessness, indeed, not a word of recklessness. Note that if the shots were fired in lawful self-defense, it's a matter of law, they were not fired recklessly. I would also note that there's not a word in this affidavit that even contests, much less contradicts, even a single legal element of Dalton's anticipated claim of self-defense. Not innocence, not imminence, not proportionality, not avoidance, not reasonableness. Not a single element. Not a word of it. If this were a civil case, I would argue that this complaint fails to state a cause of action. Indeed, it's hard to recall, and by the way, so let's explain civil case versus a criminal case. Civil case means you need to have a preponderance of evidence, whereas a criminal case means you need to have hard evidence. So a civil case can be lost if the judge thinks that they may have done it, meaning it needs to be a 51% chance in the judge's mind. A criminal case needs to be beyond any reasonable doubt, meaning a 99.9% chance that they did it. So criminal requires hard proof. A civil case is more so, what does the judge think? Beyond all reasonable doubt. Exactly. 100%. And so it's good that it's not a civil case, because civil cases are, honestly, they're a crapshoot. Which, by the way, let's double check this. So civil cases are very often referred to as a vibe check. Kinda, but it's a vibe check with receipts, lawyers, and a $500 an hour price tag. A classic vibe check is raw and low-stakes judgment. The dude's energy is off. You size someone up in 3 seconds and decide if they're based or cringe. Yeah, and in civil cases, the institutionalized, weaponized version of that. Abso-fucking-lutely. Indeed, it's hard to recall the last time I saw an affidavit of complaint so utterly lacking in legal substance whatsoever. At this point, I'd have to say I've never felt more positive about Dalton Earthly's claim of self-defense, at least based upon the representation of this apparently official affidavit of complaint. If these facts provided in the affidavit of complaint are all state of Tennessee has on which to prosecute Dalton on the attempted murder, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and malicious firearm possession charges brought against him, I simply don't see any prospect to any reasonable degree of legal certainty of prosecutors securing a conviction on any of those charges beyond a reasonable doubt of the legal merits. Hey, if you like this kind of use of force legal analysis and you would like to know more about how to be a hard convict, you are ever compelled to defend yourself, your family, property against criminal predation, consider a free copy of my best-selling plain English book, The Law of Self-Defense Principles. Now, once again, Paul Miller says amazing news. Now, I would like to say this. Whether you like or dislike Chud the Builder, the reality is if someone accuses you of a crime, there needs to be proof, there needs to be evidence. Because if people can be convicted of a crime of which there is no evidence, and to be honest, only counter evidence, then the United States of America is failing its people. Evidence is very, very, very important. If the guy is guilty, great, prove it. If the guy's innocent, great. It's innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. So if the guy is guilty, fucking prove it. So far, I have not seen anything proving his guilt whatsoever, besides how people feel about the guy And I'm sorry, just because you don't like a guy doesn't make him a criminal. Hope that makes sense.